Let us pray. Lord, we come before you today, seeking your blessing on this meeting and those attending. We ask for unity, open minds, and the ability to listen to one another with respect. May our discussions be productive, our decisions wise, and Lord, may our actions align with your purpose. Amen.
Now, Robbie, don't call it till order yet. Go ahead.
Beginning countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Call the August 12th, 9:30 a.m. regular monthly meeting of the Cumberland County Board of Elections to order. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Second is all those in favor of the motion to approve the agenda indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you for your votes. Okay, we have this is a regular monthly meeting, so we have a period open for public comments. Do we have a list of those who signed up?
Bree has it.
Oh, here you go. Thank you. We have 3 people signed up for public comments. Each speaker will have a maximum of 3 minutes to make their remarks. Before you begin speaking, please state your name and your residential address. The first speaker today, and you're keeping the time for us, Derek?
I am. Be advised, I will tap when 30 seconds is your last.
Okay. Ms. Rodriguez.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lisette Rodriguez. I am the Fayetteville organizer for Common Cause, North Carolina. 4942 Legion Road is my address. I'm here to speak in favor of keeping early voting sites at the Cliffdale Rec and the Board of Elections for this municipal election cycle. This plan would be consistent with the early voting plan the Board of Elections implemented in 2023 municipal elections. And as you know, our elections, local elections in Cumberland have a low voter turnout. And by keeping early voting sites consistent in these off years, this will lead to less confusion for residents who are busy working, making ends meet, raising their families, and who might not have time to keep up with these changes on top of our ever-changing North Carolina voter laws. In 2023, during early voting, 46% of voters used the Cliffdale site, and in 2024, Cliffdale had a higher voter turnout than Kiwanis every single day of early voting. In fact, the Cliffdale site was the most popular early voting site in Cumberland County in 2024. And according to the U.S. Census Bureau, Fayetteville has 147 square miles of land area. That's more square miles than Raleigh, Greensboro, Durham, and Winston-Salem. So having more locations in the northwestern part of the city are important. I would like to address Ms. Eldred's comment that she made during the last meeting about how Cliffdale shouldn't be an early voting site because residents who voted there during the federal elections voted majority Democrat. Our team at Common Cause reviewed Dave's redistricting app data for all of Cumberland's municipalities. For those who don't know, Dave's redistricting app estimates party vote share based on past election results. And based upon that data, which included results from 2016 to 2022, all of Cumberland's municipalities lean to the Democrats by a 28-point margin. So that's 63% Dem, 35% Republican. These are voters that are eligible to vote in this year's municipal elections, not voters who live in the county. So the Cliffdale site is actually identically proportional to the electorate in this year's election, and the Kiwanis site actually skews more Republican than the electorate as a whole. So by Member Eldred's own metric, it can be argued that Kiwanis site may disproportionately favor Republicans. While the Board of Elections does share a building with Cape Fear, the Board of Elections has more parking, and there's no need to worry about sports or rec center activities that could fill the parking lot, which I've seen many times at Kiwanis. It is also easier to keep materials and machinery at the Board of Elections and not have to transport it to another site. And most people in the community assume there's early voting at the Board of Elections because, Well, it's the Board of Elections, and people know that they can go there for early voting because the precedent has already been set. So we urge this body to keep the Cliffdale
you.
Rec Center and
Your
Board of
time is up.
Elections
Thank
as
you
early
very
voting
much.
sites for 2 weeks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rodriguez. We appreciate your comments. The next speaker is Angela Tatum Malloy. Please state your name and residence address, please.
Good morning. My name is Angela Tatum Malloy, and for privacy reasons, I won't state publicly my address, but it is written on the document that I signed up for. I just wanted to address a couple of things. Lisette is the one that comes with all the numbers and stuff, and I appreciate that. But my main concern is what was brought up about choosing certain times to bring up partisan issues, whether how many Democrat or Republicans voted, but then reminding that certain bodies were nonpartisan, but then referencing partisanship with our city. Just looking for consistency with that, because we know that technically both of our city and county municipalities and Board of Elections is supposed to operate nonpartisan. Also, I want to see, I know when I spoke with Linda, I want to make sure that it's understood if there's going to be an in lieu of site, making sure that choosing Cliffdale is important, because now this is being taken to the state level and they are having to decide the dynamics of where we're going to vote for a local space. And there is room to where the state could say we're going to use the main site, which is the Board of Elections. But if the Board of Elections has chosen Kiwanis as the in lieu site, we could end up having Kiwanis as the only site, and then in turn leaving Cliffdale out. So it may not be of importance to you, but making sure that if you're going to choose an in lieu site, and one of the reasons that was brought up is, transferring equipment. There's only a 6.1 mile difference from the Board of Elections to Cliffdale versus just, right at 2 miles for Kiwanis. I live 3 blocks from Kiwanis. Of course, that site would be convenient, but looking at this from a citywide perspective and knowing that Cliffdale is a very common site that people that are choosing to vote early choose, making sure that, and there is no reason to not choose Cliffdale as an in lieu site, but there could be important implications if you choose Kiwanis as one, because of we have no idea and it's out of our local control, and we have to rely on the control of the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tatum. Our next speaker is Ashley Tucker. Please state your name and address for the record.
And my name is Ashley Tucker. My address is 865 Wigwam Drive. So I wanted to come and talk about it. One, I am a voter on the West Fayetteville side, so I do vote at Cliffdale. But I also have a car that I can rely on, so I'm able to go wherever I need to.
Could you speak up just a little bit?
Yes.
Thank you.
But my main concern is a lot of the voters at the Cliffdale site are actually bus riders, and it would actually take an extra hour of bus time to get from the Cliffdale site to the Kiwanis site, especially even if you are as far as Hoke Loop or all the way out to like the Gillis Hill area. So I would really like to see the Cliffdale site stay just for the equity of making sure that everyone can get to the voting site. If you've ever tried to vote on voting day, someone who has an hourly job who needs to go get their children or whatever, it makes it very difficult, if not impossible, to participate in the election. So that was my main reasons. Let me open my app back up. The other thing I wanted to mention was what Lisette talked about with, there's so many changes in voting. This may not be the year to also change locations after people are already trying to keep up with, voter ID laws and things like that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tucker. We appreciate your comments, and we're listening carefully. Next on the agenda, we have an item for approval of minutes. I believe that the July 22nd and August 5th minutes have been circulated to the board members over the weekend, and you've had a chance to review them. Are there any questions?
Not questions, but I do have a couple of Well, actually, I do have one question before I have some other stuff. I thought we had decided to do action minutes, and these have rather long narratives in them. I thought we had decided to do action minutes and let the recordings speak.
I believe the secretary has the responsibility for how they do the minutes. That's a statutory responsibility, and so the secretary has prepared these minutes in style.
And that's fine. I believe in her doing whatever she feels right. However, was she told that we had decided to do action minutes only earlier?
I believe it's only the former secretary who decided to do that.
No, we actually voted on it.
We voted on it.
Yeah, we all voted on it. So that was my question. The other thing is, these are very comprehensive, and she put in there almost verbatim what you said, but pretty much omitted what everybody else said, including her comments.
Ms. Grimes, I would just suggest that if you have comments, the reason we circulate the minutes ahead of time is so you can circulate them back to the secretary before we get to this meeting. If you're commenting on both the July 22nd and the August 5th, perhaps you need to defer these so you have an opportunity to do that. Is that what you would like us to do?
I don't think so. I just want this to be sort of out there. I didn't have a chance to review them until yesterday. That's why I didn't circulate this by email. But I do think it's important that if there's going to be a long narrative, that not only the chair's comments are in there, but everybody else's. So if we're going to do narrative, it needs to be everybody. And like I said, Bree, I mean, even your comments are not in here. So, and then there are a couple of typos, but I can send you an email about that.
Okay.
So is there a motion to approve the minutes as circulated, or are we talking about a motion to defer? Is anyone? We need a motion from someone for something.
I said I have a motion to defer and speak about later.
Is there a second?
I can second that.
Is there discussion? I'll just say that the statute specifically delegates the responsibility for the secretary. She may delegate that responsibility on to others. If there's an issue about how she does it and you feel that we need to revisit that policy, we can do that certainly at our next meeting. But if we're going to defer these minutes to the next meeting, I suggest we take that all of that up at the same time. Member Eldridge, I want to thank you for getting these minutes done in a timely manner. I think that's really important. It's also what the statute requires. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, if we are going to talk about the minutes just a little,
I think we
if
just,
we,
the motion
yeah,
on it.
well, you said I could speak, so you asked if anyone had to say anything. If we are going to put narratives in there, it should be all of the narrative. If we're going to put just actions, it should be the actions, and the recordings will say what the narrative was. That's what
And I'm not knocking them because she clearly spent a lot of time on
she
them.
did.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Well, at this time, I'd like to approve the minutes that have been presented, and then going forward, we can discuss maybe a more summarized narrative. But for today, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes that have been.
There's already a
distributed.
motion on the table to defer,
Oh, that's right.
and it's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? I tend to agree with you, Bree. I think you've put sufficient work and effort into these minutes. I think they represent what was said. I also understand that Member Grimes was not able to review these until tomorrow and.
Until yesterday.
Till yesterday. Yes. Well, tomorrow would be good, too.
Yeah.
Yesterday, and these comments are coming to us today fresh. So I will ask for your vote on this motion. All those who are voting to defer the discussion as well as the approval of these minutes to our next regularly scheduled meeting, I believe that's September 9th. Please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indicate by saying nay.
Nay.
Nay. Please, the record will show that the affirmative votes were from Grimes and Edmonds, and those opposed were DeVore, Eldridge, and Johnson, and the motion fails. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for July 22nd and August 5th as presented?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the minutes that have been distributed as they are.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there discussion? Further discussion? If not, I'll ask for your vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
And the motion passes and the minutes are approved. Voting in the affirmative are Eldridge, Ryan, Johnson, and DeVore. Those opposed, Grimes and Edmonds. Okay, and the minutes are approved.
Who did the second on the approval motion? Johnson, Ryan.
Johnson.
Oh, I thought it was his motion. Was it your motion, Bree?
Bree's motion.
Yes.
Okay, next item of business is the early voting plan for November 2025.
Oh, yay.
At our last meeting, we had a motion we've had a number of motions. This early voting plan has been under consideration since June 10th. We met on June 10th. We had a number of votes on different plans. None of them were unanimous, which is required in order to avoid a appeal to the state and argument at the state level with them making the decision for us. We met again, therefore, on June 23rd, which was the last day of the previous term, and when the last meeting, we would have the same board members present. We reached a 4-1 decision that day for Board of Elections only. The dissenter was Commissioner King, who has since rotated off this board. That was the end of our terms, on our prior terms, and we had a moratorium on Board of Elections meetings between June 24th and July 22nd. So we did not meet again until last week on August 5th, when I asked that this issue be brought to the board's attention again. And last week, we discussed the fact, well, first of all, something's happened in the meantime. Last Friday, the State Board of Elections met and extended the deadline for these plans to be submitted to this Friday rather than last Friday. And their discussion was that they hoped more county boards would be able to come to a unanimous decision with the extra time that was given. So it is back on our agenda today with the hopes that possibly we can get to a unanimous decision. The advantage of that is that we can decide at the county level. It's something we've been able to do over the last 5 years on this board, which is we have our differences, we express our opinions, and we discuss it back and forth, and sometimes it takes a while. But at least in those 5 years, we've been able to make that decision at the county level. That's always preferable, and that's what the majority of counties do, the vast majority of counties do. So after our meeting last Tuesday, there were two plans, a majority plan and a minority plan. Majority plan was for Cliffdale, 12 to 7 weekdays, and 8 to 3 on the final Saturday. And Kiwanis, in lieu of the Board of Elections, 8 to 5 weekdays and 8 to 3 on the final Saturday. That plan had received 4 votes in our first meeting on June 10th. We have new people on our board now, however, and I think that needs to come back for us, for them to weigh in on that plan. Last week, we voted on the plan for Cliffdale, same hours, and Board of Elections, same hours as the in lieu of site that I just stated. So those are the two plans that were submitted to the state for consideration. Both of them include Cliffdale. One includes Kiwanis in lieu of the Board of Elections site, and the other one includes the Board of Elections site. So before us today, I think we're at a point where we need to allow the new board members who weighed in last week on the Cliffdale plus Board of Elections site to now be part of our consideration of the Cliffdale site and the Kiwanis in lieu of site. Both of the plans submitted to the state last week, when we thought the deadline was last Friday, include Cliffdale for 2.5 weeks of early voting. The only distinction is whether it'll be the Board of Elections site or the Kiwanis in lieu of the Board of Elections site as the primary site. So with that in mind, we need to have a discussion, I think, of, first of all, whether or not we want to make this a local decision. And second of all, the majority plan, whether or not we can get to unanimous vote that would allow us to do that. Again, the majority plan, and the one that we will be considering today for a vote at least, is Kiwanis Rec Center in lieu of the Board of Elections website, in lieu of site, which is required by state law to be in close proximity to the Board of Elections site. It's the site we use in lieu of in all even-numbered election years and have, I believe, going back to 2020. We have, what we discovered that's different from the consideration of our plans in June to now is that there's been a filing period. And what we know is that despite the poor turnout we generally have for our municipal elections, I did a little review of the turnout over the years, and what's very clear is that unlike general elections in even-numbered years, where turnout is somewhat predictable year to year or election to election, municipal election turnout is highly dependent on the number of candidates running and what the level of interest is in this election. What's interesting about this year, and I don't remember this happening in a long time, is that all 9 city council districts are contested. And that, I can tell you in 2019, when we had an uncontested mayoral race and only 5 of our districts were contested, we had a very low turnout for the municipal elections. Contrast in 2017 and in 2013, when we had a highly contested mayoral race and almost all of our districts were contested, we had instead of below 10% turnout, we had nearly a 20% turnout. So I think we all recognize that the vote we had on June 23rd to use the Board of Elections only, which was a 4-1 vote, including all the returning members, is no longer the best solution for this year's elections. And I'm glad we've had this time to absorb that additional information. Having said that, is there a motion to consider today or to adopt today the majority plan as described by our director? I should say as well, the director's plan, it was the staff recommendation to use the Board of Elections only, and that's fine, and that had 4 votes at our June 23rd meeting. But the staff decided not to present that to the state and not to argue that at the state level, so it's only the 2 plans, both of which include Cliffdale, which have been sent to the state and will be sent to the state unless we reach a unanimous decision today. The state can do as they choose, and we all know that. But generally speaking, those will be the 2 that will be discussed at that meeting, discussed by members of this board, the majority and the minority plan. Having said that, is there a motion as to the majority plan, Kiwanis Rec Center, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, final Saturday, 8 to 3, Cliffdale Rec Center, the same period of time, Monday through Friday, 12 to 7 p.m., final Saturday, 8 to 3?
Before we move to a motion, I just wanted to clarify one thing. What is the issue with the parking at the Board of Elections?
Can we handle that in discussion after we make the motion?
Okay. So at this time, I did want to clarify that when I brought up the stats for the Cliffdale, my only concern was statutory requirements. It's not that I did not want Cliffdale. I wanted to have some balance, which is why I wanted Cliffdale and Kiwanis. I felt there was a balance there that this would be most likely able to pass statute at the state level. So at this time, I would like to make a motion for the majority plan. That is Kiwanis and Cliffdale.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Now, is there discussion?
Yes, this is where I wanted to clarify, what is the parking issue with the Board of Elections?
The Board of Elections parking issue, and the reason the Board of Elections is used in even-numbered years, it is not used in even-numbered years any longer and has not been, I believe, since before 2020, is that our building is owned by the hospital system, and we rely on them to provide our parking. That parking at the Board of Elections is generally full, and they accommodate us, however, in the odd-numbered years. They have been accommodating us in the odd number of years when it's used for early voting during the municipal elections. What we believe, however, this year is that we're going to have a more robust turnout for early voting and for this election, given the number of contested seats on the city council, as well as the interest in the mayoral election that's likely to result from the 10 candidates who have filed.
Okay.
And so that presents an even greater problem. As to the comment that was made during the public comment period about activities at Kiwanis, Kiwanis is a rec center that has a lot of activity on weekdays. However, the space that we take up when we hold early voting there minimizes the amount of other traffic coming in. Next door to Kiwanis is the Honeycutt Rec Center, and that is outdoor space that's used recreationally. There is an extended parking lot that goes down that direction. Early voting at Kiwanis parking, even in general elections, has not been an issue. We would love it if we would love it to have the kind of turnout that we have in general elections, but that seems unlikely. So I think it would be adequate for that.
I think what also needs to be said, Bree, is that the Board of Elections during election periods, during early voting, blocks off, I think it is the first 2 rows of parking. So in a municipal election where there is less turnout, because even if turnout is increased for this election, it will still be less. There is ample parking, and there is also curbside, and there's also handicapped. So during the municipal elections, I don't see parking as an issue. The other thing is, we've already approved a plan for the primary to be the Board of Elections only. So now you will have voters that will show up at the Board of Elections to do their primary voting, and then 3 weeks later or a month later, they go to vote in the November election, and suddenly there's a sign on the door that says, oh, go somewhere else.
Confusion.
That is just...
So we have a balance of consistency here.
And, I wasn't done, and I still think that the candidate list should not be, in any sort of way, a consideration on where we put early voting sites, because we're the consideration of the voters, not the candidates. And lastly, your first plan for early voting was to cut early voting down to a week. So now suddenly we're concerned about voters and accessibility and all that. I kind of find that
So my original,
weird.
I presented 2 plans at our first meeting on June 10th. The one we're considering today is the majority plan, and the other plan I presented was to use the Board of Elections as the primary site for 2.5 weeks, and then to stay within the parameters of the budget amount that the city had been advised of, $40,000. We would need to provide balance by having the Kiwanis and Cliffdale both open for 1 week rather than 2.5. That plan did not pass, and it's not under consideration today. But as to the parking issue and the consistency, we have competing parameters for consistency. One is that we do not use the Board of Elections anymore in general election years. And I do understand your concern about the consistency issue between our October municipal primary and our November. We voted unanimously at our first meeting to use the Board of Elections only for the primary in October.
Right.
We did that because my understanding, and I believe what the director confirmed to us, was that the city had only requested an additional site and therefore was only expecting to need to fund an additional site in November. As to your issue about, and we can go back and reconsider that if you like, but it will cost additional money to do more. As to your issue, as to the issue of consistency, I would suggest that those who come to vote early here in October, that we have signage available informing them that if the Kiwanis site is adopted in lieu of, either by this meeting or at the state level, I would suggest that at the October primary early voting, while the Board of Elections is being used, that we have signage, ample signage informing people that this site will not be used on November 4, for the November early voting period, and what sites would be available for early voting in November. I believe that would adequately address that issue, and I would also, and I've spoken to our director about this, I think we need to carefully consider in the future, regardless of how many contested district council seats we have, that we provide the consistency from year to year by adopting Kiwanis in lieu of not only in even years, but in odd years elections going forward. There is a small cost difference between holding in lieu of the primary site at the Board of Elections and Kiwanis, because we have to spend a bit of money to move equipment there, a couple of trucks we need to rent. And we do that for all of our early voting sites. And in addition, we have to have additional staffing there because our primary full-time staff kind of fills in the assistant positions when we use the Board of Elections site.
So if we're going to do an in lieu site, why aren't we putting it at Smith? Why? I don't understand the thing
So
with
we've-
Kiwanis.
For many years, we've been using the Kiwanis as our in lieu of site. That's where we've been using it since 2020.
None of which I've been in favor.
Director, can you advise which one of these plans would cost more, the majority or the minority?
The
Which-
Kiwanis and Cliffdale, she sent us the breakdown.
I sent y'all
I know.
I don't have the breakdown with me.
Yeah. It's, I think, roughly $8,000 to $10,000
Yeah.
more.
For
So-
the, taking it to Kiwanis,
Yes,
Oh.
which the city did not ask for?
right.
And if we do that, please, if we do that, what other municipalities will be paying that
All of them.
bill?
Right?
Yes,
Without asking for it?
correct.
That's what-
So my understanding is that we'll need 4 additional assistants if we are at Kiwanis in lieu of, rather than at the Board of Elections. And that we, unlike the original plan we were discussing that you priced out to us, where Cliffdale was going to be open 8 to 5, it's now going to be open 12 to 7, which is 2 hours less per day, but more flexible hours. So we'll save some money on one end, and we'll spend more money on the other end. But the $40,000 was a topside estimate, as I understand. And based on our historical costs for early voting sites, that seems to be the case. So if we're plus or minus 10%, I think that we're within the ballpark. It's not a budget item for the city that they restrict us on the amount they spend, nor demand that we spend any particular amount of money. It's our decision. We have to follow the state statute. We have to do what's right for the voters. But I want to say, Ms. Grimes, that to your comment about not taking into consideration what we anticipate to be the turnout, I would think it would be a mistake. We're not looking at the candidates themselves, we're looking at the number of candidates and the number of contests, and therefore the expected turnout for this election versus, and compared to prior years. And I think it is absolutely incumbent on us to make that consideration.
I think you're misrepresenting what I said. I did
Okay, I'm
not
sorry.
say to not take the voters into consideration. I said the exact opposite. I said do not take the candidates. The candidate list has no bearing on my decision where an early voting site goes. The voters do.
The number of candidates is, I think, what our consideration needs to be, because that will affect the number of voters that we're trying to accommodate.
And that's a viewpoint. The candidate list, like I said, has no bearing on my decision. Was there a motion somewhere?
Yes, there was a
Okay.
motion and a second.
I
We're
just-
in discussion right now.
I just have one more thing.
Okay.
Since we're divided on the 2 plans, and the reason we looked at Kiwanis, because I feel that's balanced and will comply with the statutory requirements, whereas Kiwanis skews heavily towards one party. But when you pair those 2 together.
You mean Cliffdale?
At Cliffdale, yes. When you pair Cliffdale and Kiwanis together, I believe that would pass the state statutory requirement that the board would approve. Now, if we send the 2 different plans, the state could come up with their own plan. They could
Right.
say, well, we're just going to do Kiwanis, that's very centralized, that's balanced, and then they could say, we're just doing Kiwanis.
That would not be true because Kiwanis is not centralized at all.
It's centralized.
actually
when-
a central
It's
location
very
in the
central
city.
when you're considered Spring Lake, Stedman, Linden, or Hope Mills.
So the
But,
persons
well,
in,
let me finish. But right now, the 5 of us could come up with a unanimous plan that is a good compromise to guarantee that the voters will get Cliffdale, but then they also get Kiwanis, which I think which will aid with the statutory requirement, so both will be approved. My worry may be that, like you said, if we send these 2 plans, the state can do their own thing. and not accept Cliffdale. But right now, all 5 of us can come to a compromise and make sure the voters get Cliffdale and Kiwanis.
I would also point out to that, addressing that point, that on June 23rd, this board voted 4-1 for Board of Elections only, and that vote included in the affirmative all 3 of the returning members. I do not know how deeply the state board will look into the history on this, but I believe we do have, in this case, when you look cumulatively at the votes that were taken on various plans on June 10th, June 23rd, August 5th, and today, I think there's a lot for the state board to dig into if they choose to do that. I think the best path forward is for us to make this a local decision. We've got a majority and minority plan that are fairly close to each other. The minority plan failed on a 2-3 vote last week. The motion before us today is to adopt the majority plan, which includes Cliffdale as requested by the city, and it seems to be what most people in the community are concerned about. I don't think most people in the community are concerned about whether the primary site for the business hours of 8 to 5 and the final Saturday 8 to 3 is at the Board of Elections or the Kiwanis Rec Center. And if we make that an issue that prevents us from getting a unanimous vote and deciding this at a local level, I think that's unfortunate. Is there any other discussion?
Can I say something?
Yes.
To address your parking situation. I reached out to Rick a long time ago because the building is owned by Cape Fear Valley. We are on a lease. The lower parking lot is for county employees, and then, of course, there's the 4 parking spaces for pharmacy. But during the lot with the pharmacy parking spaces is fully reserved to the county for 2 consecutive weeks before each primary and general election. We just have to notify the hospital. So we can use that whole upper parking lot. So I'm just addressing your situation.
Thank you.
By upper parking lot,
Where Cape Fear parks.
okay, the one with the signs that say director of whatever,
Yes,
whatever,
yes,
whatever. Okay,
yes.
okay.
Close to the building.
Yes.
Yeah.
The whole parking lot.
Yeah, I just see, when we have voters coming in, if you're at Kiwanis or you're at Cliffdale, parking is very close to the building. For anybody who has to walk, may have problems, if they're not using curbside, but may have problems walking long distances or up steps or hills. Whereas Kiwanis, you can walk right in, Cliffdale, you can walk right in,
She just said that we had the whole parking lot.
The other
but
thing
we're
is,
sharing that, so.
I think Bree's arguments are very well thought out. One of the things that I'm also concerned about is that we keep talking about partisan divisions in Cliffdale and Kiwanis in a nonpartisan elections. And I watched a news bit last week that I think WRAL may have done, and I remember the reporter saying, these are nonpartisan elections in name only. Well, they're nonpartisan elections in name only because of conversations like this. If they are nonpartisan elections, then we need to leave the partisan bit out of it completely. And if we start throwing numbers around about Cliffdale's Democratic and Kiwanis is Republican and Spring Lake is whatever and Hope Mills is whatever else, then these elections will indeed be nonpartisan in name only. So if it's a nonpartisan election, it needs to be nonpartisan. There was a few years ago where I fought tooth and nail for East Regional as an early voting site. East Regional being in a heavily Republican area, because we represent voters, and regardless of whether I'm a Democrat or a Republican or whatever else, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. And in a nonpartisan election, it should matter even less. All right, I'm done.
So I do want to cite North Carolina General Statute 166.35, repeated in Section A and again in Section C, is that the state board, if they make this decision, in their plan shall take into consideration whether the plan for implementation disproportionately favors any party, racial, ethnic group, or candidate. Now, that's a law. That's the law in the state. And And so when we're talking about adding an early voting site, that is disproportional in terms of the access for voters in a bipartisan fashion, I think we need to do our best to take that into consideration. And I think that's what we've done with the majority plan, and I think we're making probably a bigger issue out of that than we have to, but it is a factor. And if we're not going to decide this issue locally, I assure you that the state board will follow the law, and we need to follow it here.
So that's just my only concern, that if we don't find a compromise today and determine among the five of us, the voters could lose out on Cliffdale. We don't know how the state board's going to rule, if they're going to stick to the statutory requirements. But right now, we can balance it out. We can keep Cliffdale for the voters. We want
Last time,
Kiwanis.
I'm sorry. Last time we spoke, we were in a meeting, you gave the numbers for Cliffdale, you gave the numbers for Kiwanis, you did not give the numbers for the Board of Elections office when used.
It's generally only used in municipal, so
Right.
it's hard to
And
compare.
that's what we're talking about. We're talking
I'm
about
hard to
municipal.
compare.
You gave federal.
But I'm just looking at today as a good compromise to make sure the voters get Cliffdale and Kiwanis. My worry is if we send this to the state with the two different plans, they can just say, well, your voter participation rate is maybe 10, 15% in municipals. We're going to take the centralized state that is balanced and passes the statutory requirements and not include Cliffdale, and it would be out of our hands. But today, we can make that decision. If we send it 5 or unanimous, we can make sure the voters get Kiwanis
It's
or
only
Cliffdale.
centralized to one side of town. It's not centralized for all of town.
I'm sorry, Kiwanis is right in the heart, it's the
right
very
in the
middle of this
middle.
municipality.
And so someone from Cedar Creek, just the low portions that's in the city, still has a shorter distance to go than someone out on the far outskirts. I'm sorry, am I not loud enough? Am I better now? Yes. Okay. Someone on the far outskirts of Cliffdale does not, they have a much longer ride, a harder way to get to. So, yeah, it looks pretty sitting in the middle of the map, but it's not in the middle of the map, ma'am.
So Cliffdale's under consideration on this motion.
Yes.
It's part of the plan. This plan that we're
And
considering
I
is Cliffdale.
understand that, but I think someone gave the distance 2 miles? Yes. And so I don't see where your voting numbers change. The only thing that changes is the expense of the actual cost of the election. Please. I'm not at the mic again, and I do apologize.
So the director did provide us information on what the 8 smaller municipalities, what their cost share was in prior municipal elections for the early voting period. So on election day, each municipality has their own precincts, and they pay the full cost of voting on election day. In addition to that, whatever early voting sites they are portioned given based on the number of their voters, of each municipality's voters who vote there. So as an example, I believe what you gave us was 2023. There were no Linden voters. They didn't pay any of the costs of early voting. There were several of the very small municipalities had 1 voter or sometimes 2, and they paid $100. And then we had Hope Mills, which actually uses early voting a considerable amount. In fact, we've inquired of them in the past, I believe Ms. Grimes did as well this year, about whether or not they want an additional early voting site in their, closer to their population center. And they do not. But they have had as many as 1,200 voters vote early, and, several hundred voters vote early, and they've had to pay part of the cost. But they're our second largest municipality as well. Regardless of what we adopt, the small municipalities will pay a share of the early voting. So that doesn't change regardless of which site is eventually adopted, either by us or by the state.
And I'll let make a comment about the numbers that Irene was talking about, where she said, we shouldn't look at the numbers or shouldn't look at how they're broken down. But I think the statute is what causes us to look at those numbers when you look at making sure it's balanced. So just trying to abide by that statute, by that law, I think that's what causes us to look at the numbers, more so than our opinion of whether we should or not. The statute put in place really forces our hand to look at the numbers and make sure they're balanced.
Madam Director, why is our county attorney not here today? Because I would like to run that by an attorney. So she can give me the full reading.
She'll be here this afternoon.
She'll be here this afternoon. I understand that. Thank you, ma'am.
Are you talking about the statute itself?
Yeah.
Did you want to read the statute?
No, because as a police officer, when I wanted to know something about the law, I asked a lawyer, my police attorney, and I want the county attorney to read it to me so that I have a good understanding of what they're talking, what this says.
Well, what I want to see us do is make this as a local decision. I want us to have Cliffdale and the primary site, either at the Board of Elections or Kiwanis. Kiwanis is a consideration today. I hope we can get to a unanimous vote. And if there's no more discussion, I'm going to call for a vote on the majority plan, Kiwanis and Cliffdale. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll ask for your vote. All those in favor of adopting the majority plan, Kiwanis Rec Center, Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, final Saturday, 8 to 3, and Cliffdale Rec Center, Monday to Friday, 12 to 7, last Saturday, 8 to 3, indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
No.
Let the record show that Johnson, Eldridge, and DeVore in the affirmative. We have Edmonds and Grimes opposed. That vote passes. It's not unanimous, and this will go to a hearing before the State Board. The date has not yet been scheduled. I expect it will not be too long. But all of the plans have to be submitted by this Friday. We know the hearings will not begin until after that. I wouldn't be surprised if they're next week because of the extension. There's a timer, a shorter time frame than we would normally have, so I'm sure we will be able to put that on our website and give the public information in case they want to attend that hearing. And we will move on with our meeting. New business. We need to set a calendar for our absentee meeting times for both the September and the October elections. Madam Director, do you want to help us with that?
Okay, for the primary, the first absentee meeting is September the 2nd, September the 9th, September 16th, the 23rd, the 30th. We have to meet the day before the election at 5 o'clock. We have to meet on Election Day because now we have to count all ballots that are received through Election Day continuously until 7:30. And we have to meet the day before canvass at 5 o'clock. So, and then for the municipal elections, the first absentee meeting is September 30th, October the 7th, October 14th, October 21st, October 28th, the day before, November 3rd, Election Day, November 4th, November 13th, the day before canvass at 5. And in this calendar, we also included the provisional and absentee cure meetings. Provisionals have to be counted by 5 o'clock, 3 days after the election.
Or at a 5 o'clock meeting, is that correct?
No, they have to be counted before 5.
So we need to move our provisional meetings up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I know that we discussed an organizational meeting, trying to be consistent with holding our meetings at 9:30 in the morning. We even specifically discussed the absentee meetings, since we've moved our regular monthly meetings to 9:30, where we would do our absentee meetings at 9:30 a.m. as well. If that's the case, if that's the desire of this board, and we need to vote on that, when it's not at 5 o'clock in the evening, we need to vote to change it, and then we need to publish that information.
Can we, before we do anything else, can we agree to cancel the September 2nd meeting since it is scheduled before the absentee ballots ever go out?
Well, I think we can agree that we will be canceling that meeting, but I think the statute requires us to schedule those meetings in the event that we have a ballot by that time. And I know that we will not, because they're not being mailed out till September 6th. If that's what you'd like to do, we can, but in any event, we know there will not be a meeting in September.
Yeah, so before we discuss the times, I would just move that we cancel that meeting, because if it's if there's a meeting before the ballots ever get sent out, then we won't have any ballots to count.
So can we include that in our motion?
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
Thank you. Okay, I totally understand and agree. So for September 9th, 16th, 23rd, September 30th, as well as October 7th, 14th, 21, and 28, which would be our absentee meeting schedule, is there a motion as to the time of day for those meetings?
All right, so I move that we schedule the meetings that Linda just listed at 9:30 a.m. and cancel the September 2nd absentee meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there further discussion on that?
So that's every single absentee meeting at 9:30?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
The-
Just make sure. I
Well,
got it right.
on those dates
On those dates. Make sure. I got
That are
you right.
listed here?
that are listed here, the ones I just read off, September 19th, September 16th, September 23rd, September 30th, October 4th, October 7th, October 14th, October 21st, and October 28th. Those will be our 9:30 a.m. meetings.
Yes.
Okay.
Those are required by statute to be at 5 o'clock unless we determine otherwise, and that's what we're doing today.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll ask for your vote. All those voting in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is a unanimous vote, all board members voting in the affirmative. Thank you for that. Now, we have Election Day time meetings and as well as provisional meeting times to decide. Is that correct, Madam Director? So, can you explain the situation just for everyone to understand on Election Day?
Election day, begin counting ballots, what, 9 to 5? 9 to 5, and you have to continually count ballots up until the polls close at 7:30.
You're talking about absentee ballots?
Absentee ballots.
What do you mean by continually count?
Means you have to be there all day. So as they come in, we check them, y'all count them.
So we need to begin at 9 o'clock on Election
You
Day?
can be, and they begin as early as 9.
Well, suppose we don't want to begin as early
Okay,
as 9.
that's fine.
This is a municipal election. I don't think we'll have, one thing we don't have much voting of absentees during municipal elections, very little in fact. So we could meet as late as 4 or 5, or we could meet as early as 9. Is that correct?
Correct.
What
Yeah,
is the board's desire?
I think 4 or 5 is late. I
Okay.
think we need to be there earlier. I would say probably 11 or 12. I'd rather err on the side of caution.
I understand what you're saying, but we're probably going to have in the double digits numbers of absentees, not thousands or
Okay.
hundreds.
I'll bring a book.
I
I mean,
would
I, just for the two of you that don't know me, Linda and I have this every election. I'm like, okay, we're gonna have 85% participation. And Linda has the numbers in her head and knows that it's probably gonna be more like 10%. I'm still hoping for 85% and we'll be there all day counting ballots.
Absentee ballots.
Right.
So I would just suggest that whatever time we meet, set this time for, we're going to be there then all day, because at 7:30, we will be counting early voting machine ballots. So I'm going to propose that we meet at 4 o'clock.
Can we meet in the middle? Let's say 3.
Well, we haven't had a history of that today,
Okay.
but I'm always hopeful that we can. 3 o'clock?
Sure.
3 o'clock.
3:30.
That's a good compromise.
The new guy.
Well, we know he
Hush,
has a
Ryan.
sense of humor. That's good.
right. That's exactly right. Is there a motion as to the Election Day on October 7th and November 4th, setting the time for our meeting to begin at 3 o'clock? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second. That's October 7th and
November 4th.
on election days. That will be meeting at 3 o'clock,
3 PM and
3 PM.
Derek seconded?
second.
Okay, Derek.
And that's until
You're right.
Until it's done.
That is until.
done.
That is until midnight,
Yeah.
FYI.
Don't, hey, it's not a joke. They don't play with
Hey.
it. Yeah.
I'm
That-
Hey,
just-
at the federal election, it was 2:30 a.m.
I'm just here for quality time.
I thought it was a joke. It's not a joke.
Yeah.
In a municipal election, it's likely to be around 9 PM.
Right.
Right. Yeah. It's,
Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll ask for your vote for the time on Election Day, October 7th and November 4th, to meet at 3 o'clock. All those in favor of that motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, and that's unanimous. Thank you for your votes. Now, we have provisional absentee cure meetings on October 10th and November 7th. In the case of, and this is 3 days, and this is under the new statute, is that correct?
Yes.
Angie? 3 days after the election day, we need to do our provisionals and cure meetings.
Correct.
And you'll be ready for that by 2 PM on, and is 2 PM a statutory time? Is that your
No,
recommendation?
the cures have to be in by noon, so that gives us 2 hours to get everything together. The deadline for cures is noon.
Oh, I
is noon-
understand what you're
is
saying.
noon.
For the public to cure their
Yes.
ballot.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what would be your recommendation based on,
2 is fine.
2 is fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have the option of setting our meeting time at any time on those dates?
Anytime after 12, before 5.
Okay. And you're recommending 2 o'clock?
Yes.
Is there a motion as to the provisional absentee cure meetings on October 10th and November 7th?
Make a motion that we accept the director's times given for October 10th and November the 7th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion about that time? If not, I'll ask for your vote. All those in favor of setting our provisional absentee cure meetings on October 7th and October 10th and November 7th at 2 PM indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that is unanimous. Thank you for your votes. And our canvas meetings times are set. Those are at 11 a.m. on October 14th and November 14th. There's a 7-day period of time after Election Day in case of the municipal primary and 10 days traditional amount of time after the municipal general election in November. And that October primary canvas date was, there was action taken by the state board in a couple meetings back to allow that to happen early so that we can get our ballots printed for November. We have to know who and have certified at Canvas who the winners of those primaries are so that we know how to print those ballots. Therefore, those who live in one of the smaller municipalities, 8 small municipalities, can request their ballots for the November election beginning on September 5th. But those voting in Fayetteville City municipal elections will have to wait until after the primary before they can request, until after the canvass of the primary before we can begin mailing those ballots, printing and mailing those ballots. Is that correct?
Right. We can't mail them. They can go ahead and request it because the form
Correct.
has both dates on there.
Yeah, they can begin requesting them even now,
Yes, yes.
correct? But we can't begin mailing them until after we
Correct.
have certified results after canvass from the primary, and that would be on October 14th, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance this morning, for your comments, for your
Wait,
input. We appreciate it. Is there more business?
I have a question. There's no duplication plan.
No, there is not.
Why?
I can address that. I asked the director several weeks ago to discuss with me, and we're going to discuss it in an after-action plan from last November at our next regularly scheduled meeting in September. We had, over the years, not adopted a duplication plan, even for the 2020 election, when we had nearly 24,000 absentee ballots and a couple thousand that we had to duplicate. We did those as a board, which is our responsibility. We decided last year to adopt a duplication policy where that would be delegated to staff. And as we will discuss in our after action, that did not work out well. And so I asked the director to consider not presenting a duplication plan for this year's municipal elections and to go back to our original way of duplicating.
But isn't that a board decision? I mean, you can't just unilaterally.
Absolutely, you can. You can ask that be come up for board consideration, yes.
Okay, I mean, so if I hadn't just asked the question, you would have unilaterally decided that we're not duplicating?
No.
That's not kosher.
I certainly did not decide anything. That is our responsibility until we delegate it. We haven't delegated it.
Yeah, but we've delegated it in the past. I mean, in the past.
Only 1 year. Only,
I think it's been more than 1 year.
No.
Has it? I can
we
remember only
delegated it in
one.
23, 24.
Yeah. And, I mean, I don't have the dates here because,
I'm sorry, I wasn't, this is in no way a unilateral decision, the decision hasn't been
well,
made.
apparently it is.
Well, without a decision, it's simply our responsibility unless we delegate it.
But we don't change something that we've been doing just because you say so.
Well, we did change it 2 years ago.
We changed it 2 years ago by a board decision.
Okay, do you want to make a motion today?
Yes, I do. I want to make a motion that we ask the director to present a duplication plan to this board.
I'll second that.
Is there a second? Is there discussion?
I just had my part of the discussion.
And I think I did too. It didn't work out well the last couple of years, particularly last fall, and so,
You keep saying that, and I guess that's a conversation for another day, but I disagree.
and it did work out really well. You know, the one I would point to is 2020, our huge number of absentee ballots and duplications. When we did not fall behind, we kept up to speed and all went well, and it had gone well for many years before that, so.
And that was a COVID year, which was an anomaly anyway, but I also remember spending all day, every day, for several weeks, duplicating ballots instead of having duplication teams doing it.
I was hoping to defer this to our next monthly meeting, but you may recall in the November election this fall, the board was called in at 8 o'clock the morning before the election. We were there until after 5, and we came back the next morning on election day and duplicated ballots all day again because they were so far behind. So my inclination is to not delegate it to the staff and not let it fall behind like that again. But we can discuss that at our next meeting.
Right, and I just want to make, I don't want the point to get lost that we cannot make these decisions, none of us can make these decisions unilaterally, and that we are a 5-member board, excuse me, coffee went down the wrong pipe, and that we need to make these decisions together.
Absolutely, absolutely. So is your motion to place that on the next month's agenda?
My motion was to ask the director to create a duplication plan
for our
and present it to the board.
Correct.
Yeah.
Is that to place it on the agenda at our next meeting?
No, the motion is to ask the director to create, yes, at the next, I'm sorry, yes.
At the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If there's not further discussion, I'll ask for your vote on that motion. All those in favor of having this brought up on our next agenda, that would be the September 9th meeting?
Right.
All those in favor of placing that on an agenda indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
That's, any opposed? That is unanimous vote, and it'll be on our September 9th agenda. Thank you
Okay.
for bringing it up, I appreciate it. Okay, is there any other business we need to consider today? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
Is there a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous, thank you.
For 2.5 hours, we're adjourned.
That's right, we will be meeting in here again at 1 o'clock for our candidate challenge hearing. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here.